This series of 5 videos is about understanding body language and how to get better at reading it. And make sure you stay tuned until the end of the video, and I'll teach you a simple trick that can help you understand what a body language cue means if you're having trouble decoding it. You're probably better at reading body language than you realize. The problem most people have is simply being unobservant. Known as perceptual blindness, this is when you fail to see something simply because you weren't paying attention to it. So the goal here is to start paying attention to people's body language and consciously consider what their various actions might mean. When you look at them, how do you think they feel? You can classify their body language as either comfortable or uncomfortable. Some people naturally look more uncomfortable than others, so you'll need to establish a baseline. A baseline is their default behavior. It's how they look in this current environment when nothing special is happening. From there, you can see how their behavior changes in response to what you or others do or say to them. If you bring up a topic and they look less comfortable than they did before, then that topic likely has some sort of meaning to them, and you can decide whether or not you wish to explore it further. For example, some people almost always have their arms crossed, while other people rarely or never do this. If you see somebody that normally doesn't do this suddenly cross their arms, then you know something's going on. If you see someone that normally does have their arms crossed suddenly tighten them, you know something's going on there as well. When it comes to body language, no one action has a definite meaning. They may be crossing their arms more tightly because they're cold, but you were right to notice that something was making them uncomfortable. In this case, it was the cold that made them uncomfortable rather than what you said, but it's still worth noting the change in comfort. If you see someone cross their arms and you're not sure what it means, you can simply ask, "You cold?" If they say yes, then they likely cross their arms to warm themselves. But if they say no, you know something else is going on. That is what you're teaching yourself to do. You're training yourself to notice changes in the comfort level of others. Once you notice the change, you can either delve into that topic further or avoid it entirely depending on the outcome you're looking for. If you're trying to spot deception, noticing them become more uncomfortable might be a sign that they're hiding something, and you might want to explore that topic further. If you're trying to date someone and get them to like you, exploring a topic that makes them uncomfortable might have an undesirable effect. So how you're going to respond to this change in comfort will depend on the outcome you're looking for. Sometimes on a date, you'll want to explore that uncomfortable topic further so you can get a chance to know them better and find out if they're right for you. Just because a topic is causing uncomfortable body language doesn't mean it's off limits, but you do want to be aware of what you're doing, so you don't find the other person suddenly upset with you and you just sitting there with no idea what just happened. Body language can be an overwhelming topic. There are literally hundreds of observable body language characteristics, so we definitely won't be going through all of them, but we'll cover some of the most common ones, and I'll put some Amazon links in the description below if you'd like some books to explore the topic in greater depth. Let's start with the behaviors of comfort. For the most part, there really isn't much to these. Comfort is the default. Comfort is what it looks like when nothing is happening. The face is relaxed, there's no tension in the forehead or eyebrows, the lips are full and relaxed, and the hands are visible and not touching anything. Keep in mind, when I say comfort is the default, I don't mean that all people show a baseline of comfort. Some people are chronically stressed, and for them, what's normal is looking stressed out. In their case, you want to find out how their normal behavior looks so you can see how it changes when certain things happen or certain topics are discussed. When I say comfort is the default, I mean that it's boring and hard to describe. It looks like nothing's happening. Their forehead looks like a forehead. Their eyebrows aren't doing anything. Their hands are either by their side or gesturing like normal when they talk. They just look comfortable. And chances are you're already pretty good at identifying this. Even if you think you're bad at reading body language, you're probably pretty good at identifying comfort. You just don't think about it consciously and you don't say to yourself, "Oh, that person looks comfortable." You'll also want to keep an eye out for gravity-defying behaviors. These can also be classified within the comfortable body language category. Simply put, when people feel good, they tend to do things that lift themselves up. Lifting their eyebrows, raising their lips in the form of a smile, bouncing their feet, throwing their hands in the air. When people feel good, they just feel lighter and they're more likely to lift parts of themselves. Contrast that to when people do not feel good. Their shoulders slump, their head bows, their cheeks and lips droop into a sad face. Their arms are down, crossed, or hidden in their pockets. They just seem down. Comfort behaviors look more relaxed. The muscles in the face and body are not tense. This means the lips will be full and relaxed rather than tight and compressed. When people are comfortable, they'll swing their arms when they walk and use them to gesture. They're willing to take up more space with their arms and legs. Uncomfortable people are much more restrictive with their arm movements, which may include having their arms crossed or their hands stuffed in their pockets. I want you to really observe and feel this. The next time you find yourself with your arms crossed or your hands in your pockets, I want you to realize that you're sending the message to everyone around you that you're uncomfortable and to put your hands by your sides instead. Notice what happens. There's a good chance you'll feel more uncomfortable when you put your arms down. If your normal baseline behavior doesn't include crossed arms or hands in your pockets, then the only reason you were doing that is because you were uncomfortable. Forcing yourself to put your hands at your side took away the pacifying behavior and leaves you feeling even more uncomfortable. It feels like your hands don't want to be at your side. Your hands want to be in your pockets or your arms want to be crossed. What does this mean? Well, obviously your hands and arms can't think for themselves and they don't care where they are. What it means is you're uncomfortable. Figuring out why you're uncomfortable and doing something to change it so that you don't need these pacifying behaviors is likely the way to go in this situation. You'll use this same principle on others. Why are they feeling uncomfortable? Is it something you did? Is it the conversation topic? Are they just uncomfortable around people in general? As you discover the answers to these questions, you'll develop a greater understanding of the person you are, as well as greater control over the interaction itself and how it ultimately ends. Once you've established a baseline for the person you're talking with, you want to start looking for changes from that baseline. We've already talked about the signs of comfort. They'll look relaxed and they might be showing some gravity-defying behaviors. But now what we want to do is look for pacifying behaviors. When something goes wrong or people are in any way uncomfortable, they'll start doing things to try and comfort themselves. Pacifying behaviors can happen for many reasons, not just because they're upset or caught in a lie, but even if they're just having an internal struggle because they're uncomfortable or trying to remember what happened. There are a wide variety of pacifying behaviors, but they largely come in two broad categories: self-touching and covering sensitive areas. To put it simply, touching various parts of our bodies has a soothing effect, and covering sensitive areas makes us feel more protected. We do these things automatically when we're uncomfortable. Self-touching will usually involve the hands, so notice what the hands are doing. Are they touching their neck or the opposite arm? Is the person touching their face or touching one hand with the other? The feeling of our hands on our bodies gives us a feeling of comfort, and we want to notice when people do this because we want to understand why they suddenly felt uncomfortable. They're communicating to us right now, but they're using their actions rather than their words to do it. The other broad category of pacifying behaviors is covering sensitive areas. This includes crossing the arms, covering the neck dimple, as well as holding one arm straight while the other arm grabs it at the elbow. You can see how clearly uncomfortable I look when doing this. It combines both the covering of my internal organs with the self-touching of my arm. When you see someone do this, you know they're uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean you know why. That's the reason why it's so important to pay attention to their surroundings and figure out when the behavior changed. Because there are literally hundreds of body language cues, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much detail. The book, The Dictionary of Body Language, is linked in the description below and covers about 400 different body language cues for those of you who really want to dive deep into this topic. The purpose of this video is to teach you the broad categories you want to look for so you start to notice the things that are happening around you. And if you're finding this video helpful, smash that like button for me and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. There are a lot more pacifying behaviors. Remember, comfort looks pretty boring. When people are comfortable, they're not doing much other than gesturing and showing some gravity-defying behaviors. That's important to keep in mind because that means that almost every other behavior you witness is either going to be a behavior of discomfort or boredom, or it's going to be an unconscious habit that they do regularly. Unconscious habits often look like behaviors of discomfort, but they're done so frequently as to lose their meaning. This is why it's important to get a baseline. If you've never seen someone without their arms crossed, then obviously crossed arms aren't going to be the most useful thing to look for. That said, I bet you that person doesn't have his arms crossed all the time when he's home alone, so it's still a sign of discomfort, just not a particularly useful one for us to look for. So if comfort looks like the absence of behavior and discomfort is almost everything else, that means there are countless little behaviors that you've likely been ignoring for years that are actually pacifying behaviors signaling discomfort. We've talked about things like touching the face and arms, but self-touch also includes things that are harder to see, like moving the tongue around inside the mouth. When people stroke the inside of their cheek with their tongue, or move their tongue along their teeth and gums, those are also common pacifying behaviors. Remember, if they were comfortable, they would be doing almost nothing, or whatever their normal baseline is, so even these subtle changes are worth noting. Likewise, we also talked about covering sensitive areas like our vital organs with our arms and hands, but that also includes turning our torso away from someone so that our vital organs aren't as exposed. The direction of the torso is also a big indicator of comfort, as people don't like to directly point their torso towards people that make them uncomfortable. We'll talk more about behaviors of the feet and torso in the next video, but first I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I would teach you a trick for decoding body language. Sometimes you'll see someone give an expression or do something with their arms or torso, and you really aren't sure what it was supposed to mean. Well, there's an easy trick you can do in this situation. Just copy them. Body language is a universal language used by all people. Thus, the same behavior means the same thing pretty much no matter where you're from. So if you see someone exhibit a behavior and you're not sure what it means, just copy them and ask yourself how it makes you feel. If you start to feel down or depressed, then that's what that body language most likely meant. If you start to feel angry or annoyed, then that's what the behavior most likely meant. And if you find yourself feeling shocked or startled, then you most likely witnessed a behavior of surprise. This trick is surprisingly effective and can help you decode a lot of different behaviors. If you found this trick helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more helpful tips. The next 3 videos are going to go into more specific body language behaviors, and the final video in the series is going to talk about how to detect lies and deception. So keep watching.